Welcome to the Personal Development Essentials podcast. Today I'm having a chat with a very special individual. He is the founder and the CEO of Dentinal Tubules, an online community in a learning portal sharing education, knowledge, information. And it's actually the UK's largest dental portal. I'm not sure if it is the world's dental portal as well. He's also very passionate about passion and the science of passion. And it's a subject that he has done extensive research on. So, Dhru Shah, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to talk about a very important topic that's important to my heart. So I'm pleased to share what I can for your viewers and listeners.
It certainly is, and I think it is one of the biggest driving forces that we have, because if we do anything without passion, we don't go very far, do we?
No, we do not actually. It's passion actually. Well, we can go a bit of a distance when we do things with commitment and when we do things with enthusiasm, but passion allows you to really engage with this long term. It's just important. It's very, very important actually. I've been doing this for 10 years without realizing it. Both my own self and what I do is with a passion, and what I actually serve with people is equally important. I try and instill passion in people for that very reason.
Dhru, can I have a brief introduction? I want you to take us back briefly, I don't want to stay there for too long. So you are a dentist. Actually, we are colleagues. It's something that I don't normally say at the podcast, but that is my profession. If you take us back before you started the dentinal tubules, so what made you become a dentist in the first place?
The truth is that it's very interesting to realize what made me become a dentist. I actually wanted to be a medical professional because I thrive for or really feel very privileged and happy when I can look after people. That's what really makes me happy. To help people, to try and uplift people. That's what I loved. Now, I actually thought I will do medicine. I am one of them. But for whatever reasons, I eventually entered the medical field and into dentistry. I grew up in Kenya and I came to the UK to study dentistry. And actually, the tubule story kind of started from there as well. Because
that's what I wanted to ask you next. How and why did you create this community?
So I was paying huge fees as an international student in about 98 to 2003 when I studied dentistry. At that point, the fees were around the £20,000 mark, so it wasn't a cheap penny. And then you pay living expenses. I was halfway through my education when my dad said to me, "Dhru, we've run out of money. All the savings we had have been wiped out." And it was a situation where I thought, shiz, does that mean I have to quit my education? Now, in such a situation, it's very difficult because you're halfway through. Do you quit or do you plow on? And I decided to plow on and find a way. And I've worked in burger bars, shoe shops, flyer drops, chocolate shops, you name it. I've been through days where I wouldn't eat much, or in fact, I'd go without food, simply to save up every single penny I had to try and put myself through education. And it wasn't the easiest thing. And, when you're working or you're in dental school from, 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, and then you kind of work through, wherever you're working as well. And finally, you come home at midnight and you have to study. And, you get 2-3 hours of sleep. It was really challenging. But that set my first vision of education to the world. And I said one day I will build this project. And when I graduated, there was a rule at that point. The UK government would not allow international graduates to work in the UK. So after amassing this huge debt of, it was close to 80-something thousand pounds, I had to think, what am I going to do? Now I had to think out of the box again. And I I sort of realized that there's a big shortage of dentists around in Wales. So we went to the Welsh Dean and we said, look, we need a job, you need a dentist. And we were probably the first group in UK to get Welsh Parliament approval to work in the UK as foreign international citizens. And that was brilliant. So the whole journey made me realize nobody should go through what I went. Using technology, education should be made accessible to the world. Nobody should ever go without education. And we must help people. So that kind of became my first vision. I then went to Wales, paid my debts off. I then got into specialty training. I'm a periodontal specialist in dentistry. It's the part of dentistry where somebody deals with gums, pretty much the pink stuff in the mouth, as you will know. And I lost all my inspiration. I wanted to quit dentistry. And I thought this is the time to start the Tubules project. But Dentinal Tubules put me in touch with some amazing clinicians around the world. And it brought back my energy, my zest, my fun for dentistry. Something that even my teachers could not do, because I'm a very maverick, disruptive, out-of-box thinker. That's me. And I like to do things differently. But I found a community of people who nurtured it and inspired me. And the whole Tubules vision was built on those three things of help people, inspire others to be the best that they can be, and connect people together. Because if you connect inspired and passionate people, they will build something of extreme power. And ultimately, that's what we have been doing consciously or subconsciously over the last 10 years.
And I know that these 10 years have not been easy either, because I've read the story that you had some sleepless nights trying to do the work of 30 people, being the CEO, doing all the things in the business, which I think it's the journey of most entrepreneurs when they start trying to do everything on their own because of budget limitations or knowledge limitations or whatever else it is. So can you talk to us about this journey? Because I find it always fascinating, the struggles until you reach that tipping point where everything becomes more successful.
Well, I don't know if you ever reach that tipping point, because the bigger you grow, the greater the challenges. And the truth is, when I started Dentinal Tubules, like every entrepreneur, you take money, from the bank as a personal loan. I was doing the job of 38 people on a part-time basis. I was still working full-time as a dentist. I was still doing my master's. I was trying to earn fees. I was trying to earn, the house bills. And I got married at the same time as well. So I used to sleep 2 hours a night and do the job. So I was a dentist by day and sort of a tubules technician by night. And you have to. And on a part-time basis, for 8 years, I ran this project on my own. I was doing the job of 38 people. And ultimately, not only that, but, through that process, you make mistakes, expensive mistakes, costly mistakes, mistakes that, cost you time, but you learn and you grow. You learn and you grow. You learn and you grow. You never fail. You either win or you learn. And ultimately, after 8 years, I realized that I couldn't replicate myself anymore. and at that point, we decided to bring a small team on board. And the truth is, we're still a small team. It's important because I recruit or I bring people on board who are passionate about what we do. I ask them what's their passion about education to the world, what's their passion about inspiring and helping others, and how do we connect people. And if we can keep doing that to reignite everyone's passion, that's the team we want in place. And that's why I did it for 8 years, because if through my entire journey, I've always faced challenges. And in this sort of arena with Dentinal Tubules for the last 8 years, I could have quit at any point. I could have, said I'd jack it in, because the truth is, Aggie, dentistry is not the rich money earning that everyone thinks. But in dentistry, you earn an income which gives you a decent quality of life. So why did I sacrifice that? Why did I sacrifice financial gains? Why did I sacrifice all that? So there were nights when I didn't earn any money and I still carried on. There were days when your feet were hurting and you still carried on. You just carried on for some reason. And that reason is the passion, the bigger purpose that has enabled me to achieve this over the last 10 years. It's still early days, but hey, that's where we are.
And so, what's your definition of passion, Drew?
Passion is interesting because there are many definitions around the place if you ask people. And I think the person who discussed passion most importantly was a fellow called Robert Vallerand. He's based in Montreal, Canada, I think. And he discusses passion as somewhere where you really find that you do something, an activity, a person, whatever it is, something that's important to you. It's so important that you love it intensely, and therefore you will invest time and energy in this because you consider this activity important. Now, for me, the definition of passion entails 6 important things. And to me, it is that it's a conscious, strong, and intense feeling or emotion for something. You really love something quite heavily, actually. And it's so important to you. You see it as really valuable. That's the second thing. It's not just an intense feeling, but it's that important. Because it's important, the third part of that definition says you will show willingness to devote time and energy to this, and you will sacrifice other personal goals. There's a whole intention behind it. You hold mastery goals. That's an important part of definition. And you incorporate that whole activity into your identity. It becomes part of you. And more importantly, when you're passionate, you will persist despite obstacles, despite anything that comes your way. You will continue, you will find a way. So that's the kind of definition with which I work. I haven't yet formulated it into a good sentence other than those
That's all right.
6 important things that I see as part of passion.
The way you describe it to me, it brings to mind the enthusiasm, the purpose, the reason or why, the reason why we are here, what it is that we are meant to be doing on this planet. That's how I interpret what you say. So I don't know if it is the same.
It's more than what we're meant to just do on this planet. It's finding your why based on your values. Because when you find your passion, it's something you do that you find really interesting as a first level because it engages you. And then you find it valuable as well. You find it valuable to you because it aligns with your values as a person. And yes, you're right at that level, because every human, if you follow every human, their values are always related to the good things, the good stuff about humanity, whether it's helping others, whether it's helping the environment, whether it's doing good to others. Ultimately, your passion does have to align to your values. That's why it's authenticity. It aligns to you. It creates your identity. That's why one of the parts of the definition is exactly what we said, that it becomes your identity for that reason. Your identity has to be your purpose and your values.
That's great. And you talk about the 5 characteristics of passionate people, and that's something I want to go through with you. So do you want to explain this concept?
I think, I have been working through the last year trying to figure out what was it about me that drove this passion, and looking at people within our Dentinal Tubules community. We have 35,000 members. Some of them really thrive, and some of them kind of go, this is expensive for us. So it's the thriving ones we looked at, and I sort of looked at their characteristics. And I tell you what, there are 5 very important things you find passionate people somehow work through. 5 characteristics, and there are some facets within that as well. The most important of those characteristics is a purpose, and you and I spoke about that, and that's the first bit, really. It's finding the deeper purpose within you. Now, each of these characteristics has little facets that come in. If you find your purpose, your why, that's what Simon Sinek says, please find your why. What you tend to find is that your purpose aligns to your values, so your values become important. And guess what happens? Because you have a real good purpose, a vision, and you know the values on which you want to achieve this vision, you start developing some visional goals, some plans. Some people have visional goals, while other people basically find them as motivational goals. Some people measure those goals as well. So that's the first characteristic, purpose. The second characteristic is, once you've really found this purpose with the values and the goals, you are ready to sacrifice and commit to that. That's the second characteristic that I call intent. You have an intention to achieve this. And because you have an intention to achieve this, you will sacrifice many important parts of life to go through that. Many important parts of your personal goals to achieve your goals of your purpose. And intention then involves the facets where you commit to education, to learning about things which will help you achieve this. You commit to engaging and hanging out with the right group of people, what I call community. And the third facet to this characteristics is you commit to leadership or an influencer sort of position. Because you're so passionate about it, without knowing it, you build yourself into a position where you start influencing others. Now you can imagine, suddenly you have a purpose, you have values, you have motivational goals, you have intention to achieve this through education, community, and leadership. So immediately the third characteristic becomes that the entire activity, the entire thing becomes part and parcel of your identity. You identify with the passion. There's something very important about the fourth characteristic that I talk about. The fourth characteristic is environment. Passionate people find the right environment, the right work conditions, or any sort of condition that you need to operate on. And the fifth characteristic that is extremely, extremely unique about passionate people is that they work at high intensity. Mm-hmm. They work at high intensity for a prolonged period. You see, if you're committed, or if your motivation is sort of extrinsic or maybe intrinsic, you will be the kind of person who will, after a few years, you'll give up. But passionate people work at a really high intensity, and they're in flow. They're in flow, optimally working. They're just immersed in the activity, and their emotions are running very deep. And that intensity is, as a result, very strong. So in summary, those five are the characteristics. It's about the purpose, about the intention, the identity, the environment, and the extreme high intensity. And if you fit those really well, you suddenly start finding that you're building yourself into this passionate individual.
And that shows. And that shows for sure. And it also, I know exactly what you mean about becoming, when you follow the flow and the passion, you have the high intensity to do those things. You don't seem to run out of energy because that fuels you in the background, and people can see that they somehow get inspired by it. They can sense it. I don't know, I'm sure each of us has been in a room with a very passionate individual. Yes. And they're drawn instantly. Yes. They feel the energy of that person. And
yes.
Yeah, these are the characteristics indeed. Can you tell me a bit more about the environment? So is that the people that you relate yourself with? It's your boy there on the background, isn't it?
Yes, I'm sorry. My little one is here as well. He's passionate
right.
about something which has been...
Is it his first podcast interview as well?
I think he accompanies me on a few because I babysit along. My wife does long hours, and it's always nice. You talk about environment. There's two things here about environment. The second characteristic that I mentioned, which is the intention. When you create the right intention, the community you engage in is very important. The community is the group of people you're around, and there's a phrase that floats around all the time. You become the average of the 5% of people that you hang around, or something along those lines.
That's the phrase. Yes.
That's the trait, but that's community. The facet of community comes under the second characteristic. Environment is a whole different approach. Environment is where you work, and where you work, meaning the setup of what you've got, not just the people in work, because that's part of your community, but also you think about creative individuals. Sorry about this. You think about creative individuals, and creative individuals find the right environment in which they can work. Creative individuals are people who, whether you go into a forest or you go into a river or you connect with nature, your office setup, it encourages you to achieve your passion. You talk about artists, you talk about anybody. As dentists, we talk about you and me. The right practice that has the right equipment, sorry about this, the right practice that has the right equipment, the right chair, everything enables you to express your passion so much better.
I think I understand what you mean about the environment now. And we actually had an episode earlier on in the podcast with Paul, my co-host, about the environment and the energy it produces and how it affects our results in life, really.
I think you have to think about environment connects with your energy. If you have the right environment, it positively energizes you rather than draining you.
Yes. And Dhru, how can someone fuel their passion? So this is all great, and someone might be listening to this and maybe they have not found their passion, or they have lost their passion, as you said that you did. So you say that it is something that can be reignited and fueled. How would someone go about to do that?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Looking for your passion isn't the easiest thing. And one of the things I always tell people is have a very open mind. Very open mind. Explore. Do things. Work. Try things. And what you find is naturally, and I believe in the law of attraction. Through the law of attraction, you will be attracted to things that you really enjoy, that you're really interested in, that you really, start engaging in. And before you know it, if you're in that moment every time, be in the present, immerse yourself, you will find yourself getting into this sort of approach. And suddenly you find the activity you selected has become more important than other activities. The activity you selected suddenly begins to align yourself with your values. And if you then start igniting your curiosity, now there are various types of curiosity that people have talked about. And what we tend to find is we're all curious individuals. Sometimes we're curious just to find a solution to a problem so we can get on with life. And it may be that you can't solve some problem, you can't solve some issue. So you go and you Google, your curiosity is ignited. As soon as you find the answer, you're like, I'll get on with life. But there is another type of curiosity, and it's been described in psychological literature as the joyous exploration, the explorer. And the explorer is that curious individual who continuously is just asking questions for the simple joy of learning, finding answers, and exploring. And the truth is, that's what people need to do. Develop that growth mindset rather than having the fixed mindset. The growth mindset of curiosity, of learning. I know I'm a learning geek. Right now, I'm learning a massive book on the psychology of passion, theoretical, practical, and theoretical, practical, and applications of work. It's called Passion for Work.
Mm-hmm.
But that's nothing to do with dentistry. Yet I'm a dentist. I will learn other things. That's what curiosity is. Now, here's the thing. The more you explore with the open mind and approach this with the joyous exploration of curiosity, you will suddenly find yourself being attracted to what you enjoy as your passion. Look at yourself, Aggie. Personal development podcast. You must have done that out of pure joy, pure fun. It's an activity you selected. It's an activity you found valuable because it aligned with what's important to you. You like motivating people. Now, suddenly, you're beginning to explore your passion. And before you know it, you start connecting with the right people. You start sacrificing. You start learning about motivational behaviors. You start becoming an influencer. As you said, your podcast is listened to by 60 different countries in the world and a growing podcast. Your identity now becomes the personal developer as a person. You can see how the facets of passion are coming in because you ignited your curiosity in the joyous exploration form.
And this is, thank you. This is something that we could probably devote a whole episode on about, because you mentioned the growth mindset, being a lifelong learner. And these are all things that are part of me. And
Yes.
one thing that I would love to what you said about the podcast in my case is the kind of energy that I have when I'm doing it. When my time is devoted on the podcast, when I record, I have a very different kind of energy than when I have doing other activities or other vocations in my life. So it is clearly something that I'm very passionate about.
More importantly, so to note here as well, is that there are almost two types of passion. Again, I mentioned Robert Ballarand, who talks about it. One is the harmonious passion. The passion which is, because as you said, you identified clearly, there are other things in life we have to do. If you and I both had a magic wand, we would love to make sure that we do what we're passionate about 24 hours a day. But you and I cannot do that. Now, harmonious passion is such that you can switch off from your passion and carry on with life's activities. You know where to draw the line. You know where to stop. You know where to balance. While on the other side, the obsessive passion is somebody who is either so excited, so intensely energized, they forget where to draw the balance. And this can be destructive as well, because you get so into your passionate activity, you forget about life. Other parts of your life, your family life, or other goals can suffer, which it mustn't either. And finding the balance and getting the harmonious passion is important as well for long-term benefit, for health, so you don't suffer burnout, etc.
It's a very, very interesting observation about the harmonious versus the obsessive passion. Yeah, I'm not sure where the line is. I suppose, I don't know, that's difficult to tell, but I think I have an idea. We have a life to live as well, and if you completely 100% do your passion, disregarding everything else, then I don't know, I suppose other things might suffer. But it is a little bit of
I think there's
a big topic. Whether, I mean, I agree with you. I'm not sure where that line is, because it's very vague. Where
it's up to
obsession starts,
and it's where their life goals are, etc. And there's a very good book called The Passion Paradox that really shows this. The Passion Paradox gives you strategies on how you balance between your passion and life, how you work through, because the Passion Paradox says balance is hard. Passionate people and balance are two oxymorons. As you're passionate, you get immersed in your activity. It's more about self-awareness, to realize when you're so into it, you need to take a rest so that your brain can think. It's much like a physical activity. You can't run the marathon 24 hours a day. Every physical person needs a rest. When they're resting, they're not resting, their muscles are building. And that's what passion does. When you're taking a break from your passion, your muscles are building, whether it's your mental muscles or anything like that as well. That's part of the approach.
That's great. Dhru, can I ask something completely different for a moment? Do you have a morning routine or a daily routine? I'm just saying it's kind of something completely different, but because I'm a firm believer of routines that create our results, do you have one?
Do I have a morning routine? Yes. Well, my morning routine is very simple. I give myself 20 minutes. And that's what I do before my little one, who you just hear, wakes up. Because when you have a young child, you don't know when they'll wake up. So it's very difficult. So I give myself 20 minutes each morning. I will make myself a coffee. I will sit with the coffee and do nothing. That's my morning routine. And my brain just floats. It's perhaps a form of meditation, but my brain is allowed to float into any thought it needs to go. The part of that thought that it needs allows me to do is just explore what's been floating in my mind, what's been settling down overnight. And it enables me. Now, historically, I had a 1 hour routine where I used to do 20 minutes of thought, 20 minutes I would spend in my treadmill exercising, and then I spend 20 minutes reading a book. With the current situation where I'm sort of working with a little child, I have had to adopt to that. But that's the way it works. You kind of have to work between different situations in life. Morning rituals are important because it sets you for the rest of the day. Not just a morning routine, but I have a night routine before I fall asleep. And my night routine is falling asleep to gratefulness. How many things I am grateful about, what went well in my day. And to me, that's equally important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I start and finish at the right time, I hope.
Great. Yes. Let me ask you something else then.
Yes.
Let's say you had a magic wand and you could change something in the world as it is today.
Yes.
What would that be?
My magic wand is if I could change something in the world today, it's literally this. That tubules ethos of igniting passion in people. I wish I could put that in every single person. I call it tubulitis because it's every time we've seen it in passionate people, we have seen the difference it's made to their life. I would want to do that to every single person who we meet. That's my magic wand, because through education, through connection, we can really ignite people. And that really drives me. We've done it in dentistry, and my vision over the next 10 years is to take this through the world, to every single corner of the world.
And it is, that's a great answer. And it is amazing that the age that we live in now, the information age, is so much different. Many people still have not realized the power of the internet and how it changes everything, in education included. And probably education is still one of the things that has not evolved into the information age. I mean, traditional education anyway, not the...
Well, I think it's more than that. It's about using education as a tool to build the passion mindset. Rather than education currently is all about give information and let it be. It's about the practical applications of education, how it's learned, how it's applied, and how it contributes to a passion mindset. That's important. There's a reason for education.
Absolutely. Dhru, I will just ask one last question. It's a fascinating conversation, and we could go for a very long time. Maybe we can do a part 2 at some point in the future. Is there anything else that you were hoping I would ask you and I missed it completely?
I think you've delved into this subject very well. You've done this before. What is important is also the results of passion. This is hugely important for us, because passion delivers something massive, and what it does, it has big effect, not just on what you do and the positive outcomes of that. It has a massive effect on your work relationships, on your productivity. It has a massive effect on personal life as well. And that's very important. We get these messages all the time through Dentinal Tubules, and here's a little message I will tell you. I'll just read to you, where somebody said, just an email to say thank you for setting up Tubules and all your advice for me. The past 2 years, to be honest, I've struggled in dentistry. I had some moments where I was hiding it and I was not engaged at work. I felt lost and disinspired. I felt there was a lack of motivation, and I had moments of thinking of a career change. I took time out. I was super stressed. This was a person thinking like this. And then the person said, then I found you. I found Tubules. My inspiration, my passion was reignited. And joining a community, a study club, is fun. You see, they joined a study club, they communicated, they created a community. And the result this person got, this person said, my passion for dentistry is back. I changed my job. Now I'm in a job where I can improve my talents and develop. And you know what? They say, I feel the next part of my career even though late in life, has given me the opportunity to make the most of it. Thank you for everything. That is the result of passion. When you reignite passion in somebody, the results are just hugely powerful. So I think everyone needs to find their passion, find a formula of developing it for that reason. Because if you reignite your passion, you'll put a fire in your belly. If you don't ignite your passion, you'll work for somebody who will be a manager and they'll put a fire under your bum. So that's my way of saying things.
Absolutely, I agree with you completely. And for the dentists out there that are listening to this podcast, I can't recommend the tubules enough, and they should join. But for the other people that would not be able to join this community, would you recommend something else, or is there a way for people to connect with you? Please.
There are so many different fields in the world. My big vision is, what I said, putting this passion in everywhere. So we're building communities across various fields, various industries, various, disciplines. Most important, if somebody has lost their passion and needs that motivation to reignite it, get in touch with us, because there's a community for you in whatever you do. Now, I'm an entrepreneur, an educationalist, a dentist, business person. So I need a community to explore each of these bits to ignite my passion. So Dentinal Tubules isn't the answer for everyone. And I will more than happily help everyone else ignite their passion through what is important to them. Because ultimately, passion is brilliant for personal development. And it's brilliant for humanity because it creates better humans.
Mm-hmm. How can people connect with you then, Dhru?
They can, I'm more than happy to take emails, dhru.shah@tubules.com. They'll find me on Facebook. They'll find me on Twitter. At Twitter, we are Dentinal Tubules. On Facebook, I can be followed at Dhru Shah. And at Instagram, Dhru_Dentinal Tubules. LinkedIn, Dhru Shah. And every other social media platform I can think of, but those are the main ones we use. Ultimately, let's do this. Let's reignite the world's passion.
I love this message, and I agree with you. And I'm very, really thrilled to have had this conversation with you. It's been a real pleasure, Dhru. And as I said, I hope at some point in the future we will meet in person or do another podcast interview, because it's like-minded individuals that have this kind of passion about inspiring others, helping others grow. It's something that I admire, and I'm on a similar path, different but similar in some ways, of collective growth of humanity. That's how I like to call it.
Yes, absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Collective growth of humanity. And I'm just thankful for you to have invited me to this podcast, as is my little Ayan here, who I apologize to the listeners who've been disturbed by him. But that's the human touch. We have to do it for the future generations as well. That's the collective growth of humanity. So let's all work together to do that as well.
Dhru, thank you very much for your time, and thank you.
Thank you.